All right, today's lesson is on sequences and functions. So often in math, we'll see like long lists of numbers. They have a certain order or pattern to them. So for example, we're looking at this pattern here, this list of numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, blah, 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 all the way to 28. So that is called a sequence. So to shorten the amount of writing that's required when we're writing out a sequence, we usually use these three dots, just three dots to take the place of the part of the sequence that's being left out. So for example, here we have 2, 4, 6, and then we're leaving out 8 to 24, and then we've just put 26 and 28 at the end of the sequence. So that three dots, those three dots that are there, represent the rest of the numbers here. So we don't have to write out the whole list. So that's what those three dots represent. If those three dots are occurring at the very end of a sequence, that just means those numbers are continuing on to infinity. It just means and so on, and it's called an infinite sequence. It means that the sequence will go on forever. So for example, we're talking about whole numbers. So whole numbers include 0, and then all the whole numbers increasing. And then we have the three dots representing that this sequence will continue on to infinity. Okay, which means it will never end. It will just keep going on forever. All right, so here we're going to take a look at some patterns that we have three examples here. So we have to figure out what the pattern is and then fill in the missing numbers represented by those three dots. So let's take a look here at our first example. So our first example, we have the numbers 3, 6, then we have the number 9, then we have some missing numbers, and then we have 24, 27, and 30. So let's see if you guys can figure out what that pattern is. All right, so for this example here, then what we see is we're adding 3 each time. So we can just show that it's being added by 3, adding 3, and so on. Right here as well, we added 3, added 3. Okay, so when we are trying to figure out our missing numbers here, so we're going to take our 9 plus 3, which gives me 12. Then I'm going to take my 12, add 3, which will give me 15. Take my 15, add 3, which gives me 18. Take my 18 and add 3, which gives me 21. So those would be the missing numbers there in that pattern. All right, so for this next example, we can see that the 2's here are staying the same. But this number here, the second one, is going up by 1, right? So if we go from 3 to 4, it went up by 1. If we go from 4 to 5, it went up by 1. So after the 5 here, we'd have a 2. All right, and then we'd have a 6. Then we'd have a 2 again, and we'd have 7. Then we'd have 2, and we would have 8. Then we'd have the 2 again, and we'd have 9, and then 2, and then we would have the 10, and then the 2, and then the 11 would be there. Okay, so just resuming the recording, and we're looking at our last example on this screen. So we have a 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and we have to figure out what the pattern is here. All right, so we're taking our first two numbers, 1 plus 2, we're going to add them, and we're getting our next number, which is a 3. Then we're going to take our 2 plus 3, we're going to add those together, which gives me the 5. Then I'm going to take the 3 and the 5 together, add them, and we get 8. Take the 5 plus 8 together, and that's going to give me 13 as my next number. Then I'm going to take my 8 and the 13, and I'm going to add those together, which gives me 21. And let's do one more. We'll take the 13 and the 21, add those together, which gives me 34. All right, so our first example here, we have 7, then we have 11, 7, 22, 7, 44, 7, and then let's come up with the next three numbers. So we can see here that the 7 is staying the same every first number, and then we have the third number, and so on. But the 11, and then we have the 22, and then the 44, so we can just say that we're multiplying by 2. You can just show it like this, times 2 here again. So now 44 times 2, my next number therefore would be 88. Then don't forget it would be another 7. Then we have 88 times 2, which would give me 176. All right, so 44, and we multiplied by 2. The 7 stayed the same. And then we took 88 and we multiplied by 2. All right, and that would continue on forever, right? Because the 3 dots are at the end of that sequence. So it would be an infinite pattern, but we just need to show the next 3 numbers. All right, this one here should be pretty easy. We're just multiplying by 2 here each time, so 5. We multiplied by 2, then 10 times 2, 20 times 2. So our next 3 numbers here, 40 times 2, that would give me 80. And then 80 times 2 would give me 160. And then multiply that again by 2, and that gives me 320, or 320. Okay, so the homework today for Math 7 and Math 8, the homework is the same. It is going to be 2.5, and it's just the odd questions, just looking for those patterns.